Take two. I just made like a 20-minute video and had to erase it because I said something I shouldn't have, and I don't edit. So if you're new here, you're going to know that I don't edit. So where am I? I'm home. I drove back to Florida. Let's talk about it. I've encountered a lot of issues while out on the road. The price of gas really has floored me. I'm shocked, especially since my marshmallow requires premium gas. Now, while I'm home, I'm going to try Octane Booster that Glenda recommended. But I didn't want to try that on the road because she sputters so bad, and she's shaking like a leaf again because I went to this little discount gas station the other night and I filled up. It was premium, but I filled it up, and the marshmallow doesn't like that gas. The marshmallow likes Shell or Phillips 66. Vehicles. Finicky vehicles. So my biggest issue out there and why I decided to leave Colorado, I was going to head north, and even Michael said, go north. And I was like, this was an experiment and I was supposed to stay in town. Little did I know that the sun out there was going to be baking the crap out of me in my van. And there's no getting cool. I tried everything. Try finding a shade tree in these small towns in Colorado. Good luck. You can find them in the middle of the road, shade. A tree will be like planted in a random area. Like, why is there a tree there? Well, why isn't there trees in the parking lot? There's a tree like this tall in the parking lot. Try getting shade out of that. I found a couple areas, but you got to beat everybody else to them. And 80, even 77 out there. Once that sun is beaten down on you, now 77 and 80 with overcast days and rain, perfect. I'm like, I'm going to go down in town for 3 days. It's going to be raining. All of a sudden the sun comes out. Didn't listen to the weatherman. And you're cooking. It's like taking an electric blanket and covering yourself all over in, 80-degree heat. See how that feels? Terrible. I don't do well in the heat. But that's another story I want to tell you later, if I remember. But I always say that and then I forget to say anything. Anyhow, so heat was my major problem. The second major problem was refrigeration. Trying to keep food available that I could use fast. Now, one time I used one of those cookers. It's like a Hot Logic, but Maggie bought me that one. And I got to check both cookers to see which is the bigger, roomier one. This cooker that she gave me had a aluminum insert, and I didn't want that because I'm like, the food's going to stick crazy to that, And if I can find smaller roasting bags that you can just place on top of that thing and put your food in, I would do that. That would be such an easy cleanup. So I'm going to look for that, small size bag for roasting, whatever. And I had found packets of barbecue meat, like like little Mylar bags. And that was yummy. My friend had given me a lot of stuff before I left. Remember, I unboxed it? Well, there was a boiling kettle, water kettle. And I said to myself one day, I got these small red potatoes. I wonder if I could cook those in that teapot. Darn well right I could. So I pre-cooked the potatoes. It took about 2 cycles. What I would do is I would put the potatoes, put the water in, plug in the pot, turn it on. Yeah, remember to turn it on, okay? Bring it to the boil, and it shuts itself off, and I would leave it. Then I maybe go into the library. When I came back out, I did a second cycle, and in 2 cycles, she was done. Then I took canned vegetables, the little packet of beef, and I mixed them all together in that little cooker, and I turned it on, and in an hour, I had hot food. That was cool. Now, I could do that, but it takes time and prep. Unless it was all canned food, then it would only take an, but then, there was nowhere to prep anything. There was one picnic table, and people always had it in that little town. What kind of place is Colorado? No shade trees, no swimming anywhere, except for in the frozen tundra lake that I went up to with, 20 feet of snow around it. I wonder what that would have felt like. Swimming pool, they have public pools, a couple of them in town. Wall-to-wall people, kids flailing and screaming, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go in there and get my frickin' neck cracked. I don't think so. There were adults acting crazier than the kids. I was sat there and I watched. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. That's not a solution. Then I go into a library and be bored to death because they don't believe in magazines unless it's the New Yorker. Want to talk about a boring and depressing publication? Pick up a New Yorker if you really want to feel bad. Mercy. I'm like, how about some decorator magazines, a craft anything? A bird magazine, for Pete's sake. So libraries were out of the question, and it took forever to get. They made the handicap spaces so you needed a scooter to get from your handicap space to the library. So I'd be crippling along. I didn't take the my rollator. I damaged the rubbery part on the handle. I probably could buy another rubber. I don't care. It's still on there. It just has a crack and a... So anyway, so the food issue. So I'm thinking I'm going to go up into Medicine Bow National Forest. Is an area that's about 10,000 feet, 12,000 feet, and that's the only place I'm going to be able to keep cool in this heat wave. And then I'm like, what are you going to do about food? You have no idea what's up there. You'd have to go to Laramie to get anything. So you'd have to come down off the mountain for half an hour, go to Laramie, back up the mountain again, go to Medicine Bow. I can't. I suppose I could have relied on, but I'm like, I've never been up there. I don't know what's up there. There's probably not a picnic table to be found because that's Colorado. There's plenty of turnouts like this frickin' wide. It is not conducive to vehicle travelers. No. Colorado is for the ultra-rich who can rent fancy rentals or hotels and vehicles. Otherwise, I don't think they want you. Do you know how difficult that little mountain town made it on? So they have a little gym in their community center. I call up, hey, could you tell me what it costs to use the gym if you're an out-of-stater? $5 a day or $38 a month, but you have to commit to so many months. So for a month for you it would be $84 for, I don't know, it was just really stupid. And I'm like, do you have a shower? No, we don't. I says, is there showers anywhere in town? Not that I know of, and I've never heard of one. And then I started asking strange people that looked like they were homeless on the street. I said, hey, do you know where you can take a shower? One guy went into this philosophical tirade, and I had to listen to him. What I wanted to say was, every time I opened my mouth, he'd say, no, just a minute. Colorado. Why does she love it there? I don't know. Anyhow, So I had the heat issue, which I couldn't resolve. I knew up in the height of the mountain I was going to have to deal with between 40 to 37 degrees at night, and 37 hertz. And I wasn't prepared for that, okay? My main reason for going out to Colorado was to see Bonnie and get her childhood memories to her and all her photos, and I did that. And then I lasted a month. And so I would need a 12-volt fridge. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. I would need a 12-volt fridge. Or I'd need a lot of canned goods, and I don't like to do that because it's really not very good for you. Or the other thing I'm thinking about is number 10 cans of freeze-dried goods. Now, once you open a number 10 can, you have to use it in 2 weeks. And if I'm out in the heat, I'm not sure it would last that. I'm in a dilemma to figure this out. How do these people do it? How do you, I mean, I understand I could live in a town, but not Colorado. I think I need to be up in the upper northwest region of the United States. Washington State stays cool. Oregon on the coast stays cool. These are the only places that you can get to cooler climes for the summer. I don't know how these van lifers do it. I gotta tell you, it's hard, okay? It's really, really hard. The best thing about the town that my daughter Bonnie lives in was the YMCA. I could go in there and take a shower every night. That was nice, even Sunday. A lot of places were open 7 days a week, even libraries. Their hours might have been reduced. And so I went into one library with a washcloth in my purse. And you have to ask to use the bathrooms there. There's codes on every single bathroom door in the grocery store, in the libraries, in the, grocery store, libraries, not in the Y, thank God. It was crazy, to tell the truth. Crazy. Trying to find a public bathroom in the small mountain town that I went to try to stay cool. The only place you could use the bathroom was in the grocery store. It was one grocery store. That was it. You had to walk all the way to the back, which wasn't easy for me. Some days my leg just isn't happy. Okay, so I gotta find a way to stay cool. The old polar fans don't do it when it is so warm in the van you can't even feel the air blow. It's rough. I need to find a way to cool my van, and I think the only way is to get one of those very expensive RV rooftop ACs plus a generator. Do you know what that would cost? Too much. I might as well buy a used motorhome. By the time I was through, it'd be like $7,000. That's not gonna work. And I want it to work. Okay, so heat is a problem and food storage is a problem. But I do have solutions to the food storage, which could be freeze-dried food and or canned food. I could do that. It's a possibility. And then what were the other things I encountered? I don't know why I can't sleep more than 5 hours in my bed in my van. I just don't know. But I can't. One night, I slept like 7 hours, and that was a miracle. So, and the other thing is there's not enough room in that van, and I have to like crawl over from my driver's seat, I have to crawl over the bed to get to the potty. I don't like that, okay? So what could I do about that? I could take that passenger seat out, but I do use that sometimes. It would give me a lot more storage space or toilet space, or put a 12-volt fridge, which creates a whole new problem, okay? Now I'm going to need to power the Jackery, which is sitting there in a bag to prevent it from flooding from hurricanes in my apartment. So I get the Jackery, and I could plug it into my 12-volt outlet in the front. I could do that, and or directly plug the fridge into the 12-volt. I could do that, and it would be good until, of course, it drained the crap out of my battery. I mean, or I could have somebody put the solar, and then here's a whole new set of, this is going to cost me a fortune, pricing, to get somebody to put railings up to be able to, because I have that fiberglass lifted top. I can't stand up directly, but I can stand up with my neck kind of crunched like that. Don't ever go up. I was in a lot of pain that day that I had to make my decision about Medicine Bow. I was like, okay, so I'll just go buy a crap load of canned food and peanut butter and marshmallow and bread, and I'll go up to Medicine Bow. And I was in so much pain that day from driving this stupid Rocky Mountain trail road that, holding onto the wheel with such tension because, you're this far off from going down the mountain. There's no shoulders on a lot of the area, and it's straight down. They don't have a railing. They don't have a couple of rocks. They don't have anything to give you that feeling of, okay, so if I lost, control a little bit, I'd just scrape. No. If you lost control even a little bit, like the day that I was in town after coming down off a mountain loop and my van decided to stop and I couldn't steer, and I had to think quick and throw it into neutral, start it back up, but that takes seconds that I might not have had and gone down over the edge. If ever I had to die, I suppose that's probably one of the better ways. So, so those were a couple of the issues I had to consider, and I'm like, okay, there's a heat wave coming. It's going to be nothing but heat waves for the rest of this, and I'm going to need to fill up on foods. So that means I'm going to have to go, from Medicine Bow to Laramie, from Laramie to Medicine Bow, back and forth every so many days. Because, and what do you do with your toilet waste? I wasn't prepared for that either if I went up into the wild areas, because I like to stay in towns. It's easy. You wrap up your little bag, you throw it in a receptacle, which they didn't have in the little cool mountain town. There wasn't one garbage can in that entire town. I'm amazed the streets were as clean as they were. You could not find anywhere to throw your garbage out. I drove up to a gas station, which usually, they were overflowing with garbage, and the people would not empty them because they would just fill it up again because it was the only place you could throw anything away. There was garbage all around the cans on the ground. Yeah, they made it very, very difficult, but I could go into the library and use the bathroom. I could go into the grocery store and use the bathroom. They had a park with bathrooms locked all the time. What did a little kid that needed to poop do? They're in the park playing, having picnics. They were all you can't get into the bathroom. I would have liked to just cleaned up there, take a washcloth, some soap, and I start from the top of my head, I go all the way down, sponge bathe. But I gotta tell you, nothing beats a shower. Nothing beats running water. I mean, you don't feel clean after a sponge bath. You feel kind of sedimenty. You feel like you've got a film on you. It's not that really fresh, clean feeling when you walk out of a running shower. It's not. I just want to be honest here. So I would need to probably bring that little, I have this pest spray bottle. You pump it and then you pull the trigger and it spews water. I'm like, I would need that, some sort of rail across the back of my two van doors, and then some sort of tarping system or even a sheet so I could take a shower like in a more remote area where hopefully somebody wouldn't come by and rip open the, what are you doing? And that brings me to parking at night. So up in that little town, I had found a parking lot behind a ball field, and that was perfect. And there was somebody else there parked too. I think I mentioned this. She had 3 dogs, or he, I don't know. You couldn't see the person. They'd never would let you visually see them. It was really weird. And when I drove by their vehicle, it was all blacked out. You couldn't see in. I didn't even think that was legal. But, so I didn't know who was driving it, right? But, I went up there, so I stayed one night up there, and then I went to Las Vegas. When I came back, I went to that little town, and they had closed that parking lot off because they were doing paving work. It was fine. The parking lot was in fantastic condition. It just didn't make sense, but there are all these big rolls of stuff. I don't know what they were doing. And then, so you could go beyond that school and park on either side of the road was allowed. It was a county road that they allowed overnight parking. That was on the internet, okay, about that particular area. And that very weird SUV with the blacked out windows was parked in the very first parking spot that was available. The other ones were tilty, they were narrow. I didn't like them, but I did find one further up, right on a little creek, and I spun around and I parked there. I wish I wouldn't have pulled so close up front. This is what happened. It was about 8 o'clock at night. It was still light. And I had my old polar fans on because even up there it was so hot and the van was so hot. So I'm sitting in the front seat with the window open and the screens over the windows. You know, those little pull over sock type screens. And boy, those are hard to use. They don't stay nice and flat. You've got to take your heavy duty magnets and pull the bottoms that are stretchy and put your magnets on. And then you've got to pull it on the inside and close the door, and it still lifts up on the inside. You've got to count on having done it right on the outside to keep the bugs out. And I didn't have a lot of trouble with that. So I got my windows down and the screen's on and the fan's blowing, and I'm talking to my daughter Rachel, and suddenly this vehicle's coming from the school area this way toward me, going really, really slow. It's a pickup truck. A nice one. Nice compared to what I have. And then I said, what is that person doing, Rach? I said, they're going really, really slow. And then 15 minutes later, I see the lights and I recognize them. I'm looking in my rearview mirror. I said, I think that pickup truck's coming back the other way. What the heck is it doing? It pulls up right behind me, leaves their lights on, and is just sitting there. I got freaked out. I said, what do you think is going on? Rachel says, I want you out of there right now. I said, fine. Give me a minute. I got to pull down the power banks and the polar fans, and then the phone dropped onto the floor because I'm trying to do it quickly before whoever's in there gets out of the van, I mean their pickup, and comes to talk to. I don't know what was going on. So I sat there for a while and I watched them, and they were just there with the lights on. I said, I'm going. And so I did. And where did I park that night? I'm trying to remember where I ended up going. I think I went all the way back down the mountain and parked back at the Target. Is that what I did? Because, I mean, I didn't know why they were there. And I'm like, a pickup truck, where, if they're here to sleep, why did they pull up behind me when there's so many spots along the road? I didn't like it. It didn't feel right. I wasn't going to feel comfortable trying to go to sleep that night with someone parked behind me. I knew I wasn't going to. So I left. And I can hear Rachel, Mom, I can't hear you anymore. Where are you? She's down on the floor, face down to the phone, right? I says, I'm driving out of here. Will you give me a minute? And she can't hear me. She says, her favorite saying is, you sound like Charlie Brown's teacher. Anyhow, right, so I get out of there and I end up having to go back down the mountain. I just got up the mountain. I'm like, no. But I did what I did, and it's late and I'm tired and I finally get to go to bed, I mean, this is some of the crazy crap you gotta go through sometimes, and it's just not cut and dry. It's not. Oh, my mouth is so dry. So, yeah. I need to change my bed layout. It needs to go across, and I don't know how that would feel. Another issue. I don't know what any of the answers are. I just know I don't feel well in Florida. I don't feel well in this apartment. I feel drowsy, tired, depressed. I wake up in a lot of pain in the morning. I didn't have that in the Northwest. What do you do when you're wicked poor? Getting on a list for apartments, yeah, it probably is going to be 10 years before your name comes up. I'm not joking. It's a very serious consideration. And I have to decide what I want. But first, I've got to see if we can fix the blower on my AC fan. What the heck? I don't know. I've thought about, okay, what if I get one of those portable AC units and vent it out a window? Well, you got to power the damn thing. How are you going to power it? There's no landline. You can't get into a campground in Colorado. Don't go to Colorado. Drive through it quick. Go see a couple of national parks and get the heck out of there. I'm telling you. I don't like Colorado. It's beautiful. Yeah, but it's a pain in my you-know-what. So I've been talking 28 minutes now. I think I'm going to end it there. I'm home in Florida. Hip, hip, hooray. I do get to see my Finn tonight. They took me out to dinner the night after I got home. And Finn was like, no, Aya, stay. Time is short or something like that. I'm like, I'll be back Tuesday night. We get 6 hours together. We're going to spend the time together. Mom and Dad's going to go out and have a date and, some time away. And I said, and we'll play. It'll be good. Well, guys, that's my story. And unfortunately, I'm stuck with it. Yeah, I think I put the air down too much. Now I'm starting to sweat. I don't know what the answers are. But when I figure it out, I'll let you know. Okay, that's it. I'm okay. You're okay. The van's okay, in a way. Bye.